Welcome to the Collaborative. I'm your host, Sydney Walker, along with Ryan Ballas. Today we are joined by Hayley Elwood. Elwood is a team reporter for the Los Angeles Chargers. She works as the team's preseason sideline reporter, hosts a podcast called Playmakers, which focuses on female figures in the sports world, and does video and editorial work for the team's various channels and platforms. Prior to becoming the Chargers team reporter, she worked as the team's contributing writer for 3 seasons. So super excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Sydney. I'm really excited to be here and talk with all of you and share my story.
So first up, we have Sid's This or That Fall Edition.
Okay.
So first, pumpkin patch or corn maze?
Ooh, pumpkin patch.
Apple pie or pumpkin pie?
I'm going to say pumpkin pie, but I'm really weird. I eat it with a lot of whipped cream and I don't eat the crust. So basically I just eat like the filling. Fun fact.
Hey, whipped cream's the way to go.
It's the way to go. Leslie Knope is my spirit animal when it comes to whipped cream. That is for sure.
Sneakers or booties?
Booties. That is the Hayley Elwood shoe right there. If it doesn't matter if it's spring, if it's summer, if it's fall or winter, I will rock booties 100%.
I'm with you on that. And last but not least, candy corn or caramel apples?
Ooh, caramel apples. Is there anyone who likes candy corn? Or is it just a novelty?
Yes. Yes.
You do, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay.
And we don't tolerate candy corn slander in this Zoom chat.
Okay, I will be careful about that. It's basically just pure sugar, right? Like that's exactly what it is. But caramel apples, although I'm not sure I've ever really had one, but I'll take it.
Good answers.
So your parents worked as producers and here you are as a reporter. What did you learn about the industry from watching them?
Yeah, I think it was just, I said this a couple times subliminally. I think it was just kind of always in my brain of something that I wanted to do. I loved when I was younger going to the station, visiting them at work. My dad ended up becoming the news director. My mom she was the community services director. So whether it was sitting with my dad in the control room, like if they picked me up from school after school one day or something like that, or going on shoots with my mom, I just loved how creative the industry was and how hands-on it was. And there were so many different skills and it was just really, really an exciting environment to grow up in. And I think I never wanted to do local news. I will say that. But I think kind of carving out a niche, first I loved entertainment news. Like I loved pop culture and all of that. And I also love political news. Like that's I'm a kind of junkie with that when sports isn't on, I'll watch CNN or something. But I think it was kind of always in the back of my head, but I didn't really figure it out until later in life. But I just think that environment of it being really fast paced and you never really know what's going to happen. And any given day, there's a new story. It just always sort of resonated with me. And I, again, liked how hands-on it was and how creative it was and how there's so many different elements to it and so many different people. It's the ultimate team too, right? Like putting on a newscast, there are writers, producers, anchors, reporters. There's so many different people, directors who come together to put something like that on. And I just thought it was really, really cool.
You got your start with Fox Sports where you covered high school football recruiting. What are some benefits of covering that tier of athletics?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sydney. And it's so funny because I actually just did a podcast interview with Judy Batista, who works for NFL Network, and she's previously worked for the New York Times and the Miami Herald. And we kind of had a little discussion about that because she talked about how she was covering high school beats back in the day. I think the biggest thing for me, it taught me how to conduct interviews and build relationships. I was kind of thrown into the fire of I basically talked myself into trying to get a job with them covering San Diego football recruiting because they didn't have someone, but it was reaching out to coaches and asking like, hey, I'm going to come to this game. Can I talk to these 4 players after the game? Talking to those players, keeping in touch with those players, figuring out, hey, Stanford's recruiting you. Have you committed? Have you decommitted? Who else are you hearing from? To start at that level where, I don't want to say it is small, obviously, but there aren't as many eyeballs on it as maybe the national level. But to start there and then kind of transition those skills to when I started working for the Chargers, it was huge because I had that experience of like I said, building those relationships, maintaining those relationships, and frankly, just figuring out how to talk to players and talk to coaches too in an interview setting. And high school players are very different from college players or NFL players. You know, they're kids, and I was young at the time, but I was in my 20s. But just kind of also figuring out, you know, maybe they don't want to talk, or maybe they don't give good answers, but how do you get them there? And it was such an invaluable experience because it's such a niche and kind of industry, and no matter where you are in the country, if it's Texas, if it's Florida, even in San Diego, I mean, you don't think of San Diego as like a high school football powerhouse, but it's serious down there. And it was fun to kind of be part of that and then learn those skills that can eventually get you to a higher level someday.
So you actually had the opportunity to, you're the Chargers reporter, and you had an amazing opportunity to co-host Super Bowls 54, 53, and 54, which is obviously an amazing accomplishment. People mostly only think of the players, but it's an amazing accomplishment for media members to be able to go and cover the Super Bowl. Can you kind of talk about what that experience was like, being able to co-host the Super Bowl for opening night?
Yeah, it's an incredible experience. And it was a surprise. I will say that. I did not think that anything like that would happen. So just to kind of give you background, the Chargers that season had played in London, and the NFL contracts a company to produce all of their international in-game content. And the team had asked me, they were like, hey, do you want to advance to London, like go out early, because they were staying in Cleveland for the week, and kind of help with some in-game stuff. So I've said, sure, let's do it. So I ended up helping with in-game content for the team, worked with a company with Van Wagner, great people, never thought I'd see them again. And then fast forward to January of 2019? Yeah, January of 2019. And the week of the divisional round playoffs, which the Chargers were in, they were traveling to New England to play the Patriots. I got an email from the head person at Van Wagner that said, hey, do you want to work the Super Bowl? I was like, well, yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? But we needed to work some things out. We needed to see what had kind of happened with the team. And the joke I tell is by the second quarter, the Chargers were not going to go to Atlanta, but I kind of figured I would. So I got the blessing from the team to work the Super Bowl. It is just an incredible experience. What I do is purely just hosting for, like you said, Ryan, opening night, which is kind of the media night. And then I shoot different packages during the week at different events. And then Super Bowl Sunday, I help host the pregame show, which airs in stadium with Scott Hansen. And last year it was also Dan Hellie from NFL Network and some other, I think LT was there, and some other players and celebrities and all that. And so by kickoff, I'm done. Basically, my duties are done. And even though, like I said, what I do is purely for the if you're there kind of experience, being part of essentially the biggest game in the world is something I just will never forget, and something I just think is so incredibly special. And I'm so thrilled to have been part of those two Super Bowls, and hopefully there are more in my future. But I will say it never really hit me. So Atlanta 53 was my first one. It didn't hit me the magnitude of the event until the national anthem started. And I didn't cry like Noshawn Moreno did with the Broncos a few years ago, but I got chills because that stage, like we just said, is just so huge. And I was a small part of it. And the team that I did, they also do all of the in-game graphics and all that production as well. And there's so much that goes into making that game, both the TV side, the radio side, and also for the people who are there. And it's just so special to be part of that. And I'm just so honored that they picked me. Like I said, never would have thought that I'd be working Super Bowls, but now I never want to not, when you're there, it's such an exciting week. It's just something that I hope will continue. And it's a really, really, really special thing that I'm super, super proud of.
So you've always been a great advocate for women in the industry, especially with Laura Oatman's Galvanize program. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice that would have helped you when you were first getting started, what would that be?
I think that would probably be, and I still channel this and I still struggle with this, but just to have patience. like I said earlier, I think there's so much of this, like, oh, I want this now, or I want to do this and all of that. And I think I've appreciated, again, those kind of smaller jobs that I had along the way that helped me get to where I am today and helped me get there. And I think just having that patience is so important. Like I said, I've had to channel it this year as well. When COVID-19 happened, I was actually supposed to work the draft for the NFL, doing what I do for the Super Bowl, but for the draft. And then obviously we know what happened there. The whole Vegas production got canceled due to COVID. And I was really bummed, and I was really bummed out about it. But I kind of realized this specific incident has affected all of us in some way. And there are people even who work for networks and are doing bigger things whose roles changed, you know, whether it's the draft or the season. Look at sideline reporters this season. I mean, their whole role is different. So I think just having that patience and giving yourself a little grace will go a long way. And just to kind of write it out, you know, I think, again, those little things that I did along the way, those are all just part of my story. And I may have been really frustrated, and I definitely did get frustrated because I would be producing a recital but wanting to work in sports full time. But it's okay, because it all ended up working out. And even the dance studio experience that I had ended up sort of, I use little things to this day in that. So patience, grace, and just knowing that if you work hard, eventually things will come.
Thank you so much for your time today, Hayley. It was amazing hearing from you and all of your insight. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This was so much fun, and I enjoy it too. And thanks again. This is an amazing platform. You guys do amazing, amazing work. And I'm so proud of all of you. And thanks so much again.